Hello, good day, and this is Eli Machin, and I'm talking to you today about rebuilding trust. Bottom line, this is probably one of the most challenging concepts to wrap your head around for both the spouse of an addict and the addict themselves. And it took me years to kind of really begin to understand the difference between trusting someone and being naive. Now, I went through most of my early life, a whole lot of my early life, you know, with the motto or slogan that I'll trust you until you prove yourself untrustworthy. What I discovered in that whole process is the bottom line, I got burnt a lot. The scripture talks about it as the prudent sees evil and hides himself, but the naive proceed and pay the penalty. Bottom line, I wasn't trusting, I was naive. Trusting is that, well, I've learned two different angles of the thing. First of all, is allow somebody to earn that trust, and even expect it when I engage in relationships, a process of trying to earn that trust from them, and recognizing that is an element of building relationship with anybody. That if trust is going to be there, it's got to be earned, and someone's going to let me earn it. Now, if I'm prejudged in a relationship and I'm not allowed to earn it, then I'll never earn the trust. If I'm trying to be controlled by somebody, if somebody's always trying to manage my life, my recovery, my work, then they will never trust me, and I'll never earn that trust. Second of all, if I'm going to demand or expect or ask others to give me trust without me earning it, then I'll never earn it that way either, because I don't understand what it means. And I set up the expectations of a relationship that will never be trust building. So I just want to, from the get-go, to encourage you to understand this is a really important dynamic here, because first of all, you if you're an addict, are married to somebody that probably has never been in too many relationships where there's been trust building. And so he or she has felt duped by you because you proved not to be trustworthy. Right? You know I'm right. All right. Two is you've always assumed that trust is to be given. Now, the danger of that is that later on, you're going to come back into this relationship and start expecting trust from your spouse when you've not earned it. And I'm talking it's going to take years. It's going to take years. Now, bottom line, tough. That's just life. Basically, you're going to build character through this. You're going to be a man or woman of character and determination and depth, that when you show up at this short place that I've talked about so far, you're going to be somebody really worthy showing up to. And plus, that other person is going to have to back off, stay on their side of the short place, and let you earn it. So it's both of you win. Both of you are going to win. Now, let's talk about this. The reality is that your responsibility to be trustworthy is yours. You can't be upset because somebody won't trust you, especially in the early first few years of rebuilding, working recovery, and staying sober. Understand something. Sobriety is just bottom line. That's where you should have been all along. That's where the other assumed you were. That's what they wanted in the beginning. They didn't want your drugging or your drinking or your sexually acting out. They didn't want that in part of it, and it's become damaging. In reality, it's yours. It's your deal to say, I don't go there anymore. Don't expect kudos for being sober. That's just getting back to zero, maybe. Now, the second thing is walk the walk. Don't just talk the talk. Bottom line, what I'm saying by that is that in addictions work, I've heard addicts say it over and over. How do you know an addict is lying? When they move in their lips. Talk has been cheap in your relationship with those significant others in your life up to now. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry it's that way. But that's life. And this is about an honesty program anyway, right? So bottom line, you've lied a whole lot in a relationship to cover your addiction, to cover your rituals, to cover your other stuff, why you weren't where you were supposed to be, or why you haven't accomplished what you're supposed to do, or why the money is not there when it should be, and those kinds of questions. I mean, you've lied about this. So you trying to tell your spouse that you're sober, you trying to tell your spouse you're not doing these things, that's not going to work. What is going to work is that you consistently, through your behavior over a long period of time and understanding of what they're struggling with, you can earn it back. It can be earned back. Now, At the same time, it's important for you to communicate often about what and how you're doing in recovery. Don't make it that your spouse has to meet you at the door and wring it out of you and wring the truth. Part of this goes back to disclosure, and I talked about this when I talked about disclosure. If they've had to wring the truth out of you and you've pieced out the truth, how long do you think it's going to get them to trust anything you say after that? Bottom line is that you walk through the door each and every day, you explaining to her exactly what's going on. Stay current with your wife. Be intentional. Notify the spouse every 24 hours of where you are. If you've had a slip in your recovery, then tell them. Tell them what you're doing. Let me give you a quick list. I may have it here, but I don't remember. Bottom line is this. If you've had a slip during the day, you get on the horn, you call your sponsor. You set up a meeting. You get an appointment with your counselor. You go these things. So when you walk through that door that evening, you says, I've had a slip. And I promise that I'll stay current with you. Because you've got that. Every Saturday I'm asking you, are you staying current with your spouse? Bottom line, it's there for a very important reason. I know for two reasons. One is that it'll be one of those barriers to keep you sober because you're going to have to own up to it if you don't. But second of all, it's trust building. I've seen more divorces happen because of an addict not staying current or lying to their spouse about their slip than ever the slip. The slip is not what tubes or destroys the marriage. It's the lying. If you say, I messed up today, and this is what I've done. I've called my counselor. I've called my sponsor. We had lunch together. I got an extra meeting to go tonight after dinner. I will do whatever I got to do to not let this go any further, and I'm being current with you. Now, are they going to be happy by that? No. They're not going to jump up and down and clap you on the back and give you a big kiss for doing what you should do. But I'm going to tell you, over time, that builds a confidence, and they know you're not facing this addiction alone and that you'll stay at it because they're worth it, and you'll go for sobriety. Now, bottom line, when you come in and you report to them, it could be, I'm good, I'm sober. It could be that my hair's on fire and I'm going nuts, and, I got to get to a meeting. I haven't done anything yet. I'm still sober, but I'm not well. I've had a hard day at work. I'm afraid they're going to fire me, or whatever it is. Then it's the other ones you come in and you say, I'm sucking air, man. I'm not doing well, I'm still sober, or I'm not. And I'm hurting, and I'm in a bad way. And I gotta go see my sponsor. I'm not good. Whatever it is, the truth is the most important thing they need to hear. And I get it that the message of shame here is that you would like to say this. I'd like to say I'm good and I'm sober. Because we're afraid we're going to be rejected. We're afraid, but I'm going to tell you, this is the biggest trust-building process that you'll ever do with your partner. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, you're skating on real thin ice if you come in and at any point you ask them or demand of them when she's going to trust you or he's going to trust you. You cannot ever demand or ask. You just keep earning it. You keep earning it. You keep earning it. There'll be a day when you come home and you're doing your current day-in, check-in, and it's years down the road, and they're going to say, will you please not do this anymore? I trust you already. I know you're at the show-up place. I know long before you get off into the woods, weeds and whatever else, that you're in trouble. I'm going to know it because we've been showing up together, and I know who I'm facing off with. Just don't ever demand it. Don't ever ask it. You'll know it when you're there. They're going to tell you to back off some of the things. They say, okay, all right. I know you're sober. You've been sober. You've been acting it. You've been showing up over a period of time. I trust what I see. Then you can back off of doing that. I bet you probably won't stop some of the check-ins and the connection time you've had because that's really good stuff. And you do it long enough, you won't want to give it up ever. Now, trust is earned is never demanded. Bottom line, what's going to do that? Not just you coming home and saying, I'm sober. Remember, moving your lips, you're doing what? All right. In the early days, they're not going to trust your lips moving and anything that comes out of your mouth. What they always will look for is that, are you maintaining community? Have you got a people around you to help you do what you've not been able to do by yourself? They know this. That's why when you keep going to meetings, there's times they get frustrated with that. Sometimes they may be a little jealous about that, unless they're going to their own meetings too. Bottom line, though, it is what they need to know is, are you maintaining community? Are you making those meetings come? And I'll tell you, I'll get calls, I'll get emails from spouses over the years where this is, my husband has quit going, or my wife has quit going to meetings. And they know, in their gut, they know it's too short. I mean, it's like, well, I've done this for 3 months or 6 months or a year. You know, the first thing that comes to mind is that they're not long before you're going to be drinking, drugging, or acting out. The second thing is that when they see you continuing to make calls, when you say to them, sweetheart, I got to make a call, or, you know, dear, I need to make a call to my sponsor after supper or whatever. Can you give me a few minutes? Or they're in the mall, or you're somewhere where they're being triggered or whatever else. I need to make the call. Now, there'll be times when they're going to get frustrated with that. But they're going to see consistency over time when you're calling people and you get grounded. You get somebody to tell you you don't want to go there. We can have a meeting or whatever else. They're going to watch. They're going to see, are you making those calls? And then are you doing your work? Not just putting your rear end in a seat somewhere, but are you really doing the work? And I want to remind you, addicts, that years ago, 1995 or earlier, I started the first spouses intensive outpatient program because of addicts going and doing their work and their lives changing before their wives, their husbands, their spouses' life. And they called us and said, you know, Eli, do something. Do something. And it's like, we need something for us. Our spouses are coming back and going to groups and they're making calls and they're doing all this work, and it's like, what about us? In other words, what I want to encourage you here is because of what addicts did when they went back and did the work, the trust-building work, that the spouses said, whatever you got, I want. Whatever you got, I want. That's what you do. And then they begin to say, then when you say, I'm sober, they know it because of all the other that's going on in your life. It's not all about you, though. In the early days, that's what they may think, and it won't do you a bit of good to go tell them it's not all about me. But understand this, and I share this for empathy. There was a day when they married you, walked an aisle, or did whatever it is that y'all did, and you got married. And in their mind, probably much like yours, there was a fantasy and a belief that somehow or another this was going to be a correction of all the misaligned trust and broken trust, hurt and damage that they had experienced prior to this marriage. And that somehow or another, magically, you were going to fix it all. It didn't turn out that way, did it? No. And so, for them, trustworthy means that you've become this magical man or woman that they always wanted you to be. Now you're Mr. or Mrs. Perfect. And it turns out that you didn't become that, did it? That somehow or another, you weren't this perfect, ideal person to bring in this perfect relationship and it would heal their wounds. It didn't happen. They're disappointed about that. And you know you can't fix that. But understanding that she has held you responsible for every betrayal and every hurt she or he has ever experienced at the hands of someone else important to them. If you can understand this, it'll give you some empathy to understand what she's going through. She's been through many times before with others. As we go back and we look at those behaviors, I want you to realize that by you doing all of those consistent behaviors, not directly but indirectly, you're providing a platform of healing for her. You're showing her or him that there's somebody out there that can earn her trust or his trust. Do it because it's worth it. Do it because that's who you want to become. Do all of these behaviors because, as far as you're concerned, that's the man or woman you want to be when you show up at the short place. Not perfect, but with the willingness to earn the trust in any relationship you're in, whether it's your children, whether it's your spouse, whether it's those around you in your workplace or your career or your profession, that you walk in saying, I will earn this trust. I will be trustworthy.